Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar. And, something that I've been quite upfront about is how much this generation of gaming really kind of lacks the oomph of really even the previous generation, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One gen, right? When the PS4 dropped, right from the get-go, you started getting games like Assassin's Creed Unity, which, granted, was a buggy release when it came out, but let's not forget the fact that they were building exclusives, really pushing the hardware as much as they could, visually giving you something that you wouldn't have gotten a generation before. And nowadays, it feels like, honestly, most games that you really care about that come out on the PlayStation 5 probably have a PS4 port, and same thing with if you're on the Xbox platforms as well. It really feels like a generation that hasn't really jumped at all, and it's been out for years at this point, okay? To say this is the next generation or anything, we're in the middle point. And what denotes a middle point these days in a video game generation? It's when you start seeing these pro consoles being thrown out. So this is something that I was really excited for. As somebody that's a fan of video games and somebody that likes the most cutting edge stuff, this is the PS5 Professional. That's what it looks like. It's the same thing as a PlayStation 5, except it's got 3 stripes on the side, okay? Somehow the fans are right here and they do not have exit ports. I had to buy a separate little case for my PlayStation 5 just so it could breathe properly. So to give you an idea, what should you get excited about with a system that has, let's look at the games list. So when you buy a PlayStation 5, these are the exclusive games right now. You can't play this 21 set of games on anything else but a PlayStation 5. So you would think, whoa, Muda, this probably is a list that is exhaustive, and it's a list that contains some serious jaw-dropping titles. One of them being Astrobot, which is a great game that came out and, literally, I think like a week ago. Awesome title, fun game. It's one of those callbacks to Sony mascot stuff. Astro's Playroom came bundled with the PlayStation 5 as a technical test. But of course, you've got serious games like Death Stranding 2, which is coming out next year. And while that looks nice, you got Demon Souls, a 2020 release, a remake of Demon Souls from the PlayStation 3, and if you're like, whoa, maybe the gameplay is vastly different. No. It's a visual upgrade. I would say the gameplay is pretty much almost near identical to the original From Software release back in the PlayStation 3. You've got games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which by far is the only game that I've played out of this entire generation where I felt like, yeah, this is what I bought a PlayStation 5 for. You've got Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which is nearly identical to the PlayStation 4 version of the game running underneath the PlayStation 5. If you buy Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, you are a cuckold, okay? That's just simple as, I don't make the rules, that's just how it is. You've got Rise of the Ronin, Spider-Man 2, and you've got Synapse, Stellar Blade, and Silent Hill, The Short Message. Now, in terms of gaming, I would say that a lot of the games that come out now are pretty decent, right? Like, obviously, if you took exclusives out of the ring, I would say this generation does have some pretty nice stuff. For instance, the Resident Evil 4 remake, I thought it was a pretty good remake, pretty good reimagining of something on modern hardware. Something like Grand Theft Auto 6, which is dropping literally next year, I think, hopefully next year, I think is a pretty good showcase of gaming going forward. When I think of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good, Final Fantasy VII remake sequel, which actually used the hardware that I purchased because of its vast, the vast map size, the vast world to explore. And honestly, when you think about the PlayStation 5 or really these modern systems, you're really looking at load times being a lot faster. For instance, because SSDs are mandatory in these devices, dying in a video game means instead of waiting 1 minute, you come back in literally seconds. When you're loading into new zones, you literally load in seconds. When you think about transitioning in massive open worlds, you're not looking necessarily at crazy amounts of pop-in or data having to be streamed in. The game, because it's running on an SSD, runs a lot better. When you think about the CPUs being massively upgraded compared to the generation before, you're looking at big open world games finally running at 60 frames per second, okay? I don't think there's anybody that's going to deny that games like Spider-Man 2 don't look brilliant on modern hardware. So anyways, looking at the PlayStation 5 like this, what do they have? They got a GPU upgrade, advanced ray tracing, and something they call PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. So how much does all of this juicy shit cost, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Sony was proud enough to showcase, according to the PlayStation 5, which doesn't contain that disk drive built in, this is going to be priced, I'm not joking, I'm not shitting with you, $700 US, okay? 700 USD. Now I did the math. I did the Jaguar math, boys. That's 952 Canadian pre-tax. When you get this shit at a store and you put it up on the counter, you're looking at 4 fucking digits, a decimal point, and 2 fucking digits right after it. And that's just the console, okay? Now, what if you wanted to play some video games online? Well, you gotta get that PlayStation Plus subscription. Oh, hold on there, Chief. What about a controller? Now, I don't usually buy an extra controller. At least this generation I did, because, I use them on, like, PCs and whatnot. That's going to cost you money. And given how fragile the DualSense controller is, okay, you're probably going to be buying a couple of those this generation. Wait, hold on, but what about the games? Well, you're going to be buying them at like $70 a pop, all right? Boom! It all adds up. Now, I started doing the comparisons on PC gaming and stuff, and I was like, whoa. For the amount of money you're spending, if you really wanted to be in the market, you could pick up some of these PC games on sale at a Best Buy, which, by the way, they're screwing you somewhat when it comes to a, pre-built. Usually if you want the best value, build your own if you can, if you have the chops for it. But, buying something for $1,400 here with an i7 13700F, 32 gigs of RAM, a terabyte SSD, and an RTX 4060, I would say still wipes the floor with the PlayStation 5. And that's not including you have to pay for the, peripherals that are proprietary or pay for the fucking subscription you need to play peer-to-peer games with friends. It's insane. It's insane the lengths people have to go to get nickel and dimed on a console storefront. But anyways, I wanted to see, what does this include, okay? They got an upgraded GPU. So with the Pro, we're upgrading to a GPU that is 67% more compute units than the current console and 28% faster memory, right? So obviously it's going to be more performant, meaning that instead of 60 frames, you're looking at obviously a number higher than it. You're looking at faster loading. You're looking at faster things being filled in because of the memory. Overall, this enables 45% faster rendering for gameplay. Oh yeah, 45%. So we're going from 60 up to 90 FPS. Okay, advanced ray tracing. We've added even more powerful ray tracing that provides more dynamic reflection and refraction of light. Allows the rays to be cast at double, at times triple the speeds of a current PS5 console. Now, ray tracing is one of those things, when I heard about it on the PS5 and the Xbox when it was launching, I was like, okay, this is impressive, because what it's going to do is it's going to set a standard so that ray tracing is more integrated into video games. Now, the thing with ray tracing is it is an incredibly expensive form of graphics rendering. For instance, Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, one of my favorite games of last year. I was playing Cyberpunk pretty much with path tracing on my computer with the, but in order to get that running, in order to get this visual quality, I had to use things like DLSS in order to run the game at a far lower resolution and upscale it through artificial intelligence and run it through frame generation technologies to claw back as much playable performance as I could, even with an RTX 4090, which costs, I would say, twice the amount, even more than this one system. That's how expensive ray tracing, and in some cases path tracing, can be. It is a very computationally expensive form of graphics rendering, which, depending on the game, sometimes actually is worth it. If you ask me, for Cyberpunk it is. But some games, you find the implementation kind of a little lacking. Like, I don't think it's all that impressive in games like Star Wars Outlaws, but, it depends. If they want to push this, it's because they introduced technology to the original PlayStation 5 release. Clearly it wasn't there other than, maybe doing a couple things relatively well. Like most games that use ray tracing nowadays on the PlayStation 5, in my opinion, they often have like one specific type of suite. Like for Cyberpunk, it'll be like shadow rendering, or for some games, it'll be like just reflections. It'll never be the whole suite of ray tracing technologies because that becomes too expensive. Obviously, with this, they want ray tracing to be a big dominant part with their own games and with other games that are coming out. I suspect stuff like Grand Theft Auto 6 probably have a lot of ray tracing based on what I've seen in the trailer and what you've seen from other technical analysis. It is something that is definitely going to benefit from this one boost. Then, of course, they've got AI-driven upscaling, which they've got PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. So basically, like technologies like DLSS and FSR, it runs the game at a lower resolution so you can get a higher resolution looking output. Basically, the theory is if you can't run the game at like 4K, you're running the game at like 1080p and having AI, upscale that image so it looks as close to the 4K as it possibly can. And generally, I am okay with this stuff if it's used properly. If it means that they're usually, the game is well optimized, but generally for older graphics cards, they find a way for them to get a little bit more life out, not to be used as a general assist, right? Like when a game company tells you, you're gonna need it to get a playable frame rate. I think at that point, the game is just unoptimized, or ray tracing is such a heavy focus that they want you to be ray tracing the game, and there's just no way to ray trace without having to like upscale or throw every assist to claw back the performance. So yeah, these are all the actual assists that are being provided, and what they said was something that really sealed the deal for how needless this upgrade is. So Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Demon's Souls, Dragon Dogma 2, FF7 Rebirth, GT7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered are the first games that are going to be like, PS5 Pro enhanced. Now, to me, this is the biggest laugh because these games already look great on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Like, there's really no reason to be goddamn that excited for this entire situation, because those games that I just listed look jaw-droppingly amazing on the PS5, and in some cases, their performance is great. Even the worst-case scenario out of this, which would probably be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or maybe Dragon's Dogma 2, still look good on a PlayStation 5. The PS5 Pro, from what I suspect, will usually just give these games maybe that final push to get to 60 frames, or just actually have them running at 4K. Now, I'm more interested in the 60 frame stuff, more than the 4K, because honestly, like most upscaling technologies, in my opinion, get there. I really care how the game feels in my hand when I'm like moving my character around. That's more, apparent to me than anything else. Now, the reality with this list is the fucking list doesn't mean anything. These games look good. This product could have been more useful had they released it alongside like GTA 6. Because if they had basically said, look, Grand Theft Auto 6 runs at 30 frames on the original PS5, but this will actually get things running at 60 frames per second. That might have been enough to convince a lot of people to think, yeah, biggest game of the generation, double the frame rate if I buy this product. That might push people there. But some of the stuff they talk about is a PS5 Pro Game Boost, which applies to more than 8,500 games in the PS4 and the PS5 library, it seems. Which, again, doesn't really mean anything. PS4 Pro had the same, Game Boost technology. All this is going to do is, again, if a game doesn't run smooth enough, it'll provide enough resources, brute force-wise, to just push those games to their frame rate caps, or, keep their resolution sticking more towards the top end if they're dynamic. It's not going to go into the code, it seems, and change things around. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 runs at 30 frames on a PS5. No reason for it. It's just because Rockstar Games has a actual frame rate cap they refuse to patch out. PS5 Pro Game Boost, unless it goes into games and starts removing those things by force somehow, this isn't that crazy of a feature. Then they talk about shit like VRR, which is great technology, especially if you got a fluctuating frame rate, but 8K gaming? Who cares about it? Dog, we are not even at a point where 4K gaming works well. This thing couldn't even run games at 4K properly. And you're talking about 8K technology through upscaling, most likely? This is stuff where, honestly, the more I read about it, the more I think, yeah, if you're going to be in the market to buy this product, okay, you might as well just wait for a PlayStation 6, right? Because that's probably not, too far down the road. Maybe a few years, if that. This generation is already kind of ran through, guys. Let's be real here. But I think what really bugs me the most, and enough to make a video about it, is that this is available as a diskless console, but you do have the option to buy a disk drive separately. So just psychologically think about it. You go to a store, you buy a console for $1,000, but you don't bundle a disk drive with it, right? Sony is, and it's not just Sony, it's Microsoft. It's, Microsoft even more so. these two juggernauts are moving to a world where they want to silently push out as much physical media as they can. You know, by not bundling this $700 console with a disk drive, I think Sony pretty much wants the world to kind of know, hey, probably consider buying your games digitally, which at this point, if you're buying your games digitally anyways, instead of purchasing a $700 mid-range computer locked to one digital storefront, just buy one mid-range PC that's locked to, actually no, you can use any storefront. Because here's the thing, once you lose physical media and the ability to share games around, I personally don't care much about console gaming at that point. In fact, I'm pretty much never buying a PlayStation or an Xbox or even a Nintendo product if I can't purchase the physical media. At that point, I might as well just use Steam, use Epic Games, use GOG to purchase my video games if all I'm doing is buying digital licenses anyways. I might as well buy them on a system that I can at least, purchase and play on my main computer and possibly play on a Steam Deck somewhere else or any other device that I have. At this point, looking at something like this in the direction that Sony wants to take video gaming, you might as well just purchase your own computer, install something like Bazite on top of it, and just build yourself your own console based on the SteamOS framework. That might be the better option. Because here's the thing, PlayStation 5 Pro, for $700 in this fucking economy, they want to push that is actually insane. And I don't really think that this is going to be selling as much as even the PlayStation 4 Pro, because I think it's really hard to justify people to jump into the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series generation, especially when it hasn't been as overwhelmingly wild as the previous generation is. And now on top of that, you're really trying to sell a $700 system that still doesn't have a whole suite of games. By this point in the PlayStation 4 lifespan, I pretty much understand that the system established itself. There was a lot of PlayStation 4 exclusive games that pretty much already set the system above and beyond its previous, lineage. The PS5 Pro is still trying to make a name for itself. There's still not enough games to justify purchasing the base system, and they want you to go buy the professional system out there. Insane shit. But yeah, $700? Sony, you're out of your goddamn mind. You think people are out there paying $700 for a system that has 45% better GPU performance and better ray tracing? For them to sell this, they should have absolutely fucking shown some system like killer application. Everything they showed is stuff that already looks good and runs amazingly well on the PlayStation 5 Pro or the PlayStation 5 base. So yeah, wild stuff indeed. Honestly, I was blown away looking at this presentation, and they probably should have waited to show this more around GTA 6. They probably should have found a way to get GTA 6 bundled with a PS5 Pro. Maybe I might have considered buying it, but right now as it is, it's a weak upgrade in a weak generation. Anyways, I am out.